My son's words settled in the air like dust that would never fall. From now on, your paycheck goes into my account. You don't need anything anyway. Landon said it with the same calm he used when ordering takeout, as if he were discussing toppings on a pizza, not the life of the woman who had raised him. I stayed silent. Silence is not weakness. Not at my age. Not after 63 years of watching people reveal who they are when they think you cannot push back. I learned that during my years in payroll compliance. If you pause long enough, people expose their intentions, and Landon had finally exposed his. He sat across from me at my kitchen table, elbows spread, claiming space that had never belonged to him. Savannah stood behind his chair, tracing the back of it with her perfectly manicured fingernail, the shape of her smile tightening with expectation. She was waiting for me to crumble, waiting for the obedient mother-in-law she thought she owned. When I didn't respond, her smile shrank half an inch. Landon continued talking about logistics, how we should streamline everything, how the elder years are unpredictable, how it's better if he handled my finances. He said it like a man who rehearsed the speech in the mirror. But I watched something else. I watched how Savannah shifted her weight, how she placed her purse on my counter like she already lived here. I watched Landon's eyes dart toward the hallway where my home office sat. He thought I didn't notice, but I always notice. That evening, as the sun dropped behind the cul-de-sac, they returned for dinner, like they always did. 3 years of Thursday nights. 3 years of them walking through my door empty-handed. 3 years of me trying to keep the peace. But tonight was different. Tonight I had prepared my own script. I heard the doorknob turn. They still had a key. I had given it to them back when trust was something I thought could not be broken. The door opened, and they froze. Savannah gasped first, sharp enough to cut through the room. Landon's breath hitched his hand, tightening on the doorknob, as if bracing for impact. My living room was empty, bare walls, bare floors. The sofa they loved lounging on every Thursday was gone. The dining table where they ate without offering to help wash a single dish was gone. Even the lamp Landon claimed made the lighting soothing was gone. Only one thing remained: me. I sat at the cleared kitchen island, my palms resting on the brass binder clip I had kept since my first day in payroll 34 years ago, a symbol of everything I once held together: my job, my home, my son. Mom, Landon said, voice cracking, "What happened? Where is everything?" I lifted the binder clip slightly. The metal glimmered in the warm light, the same golden tone that used to pass through this room every morning when things were simpler, when motherhood felt like purpose rather than obligation. Looking for something, I asked. He blinked, stunned. Savannah stepped into the room, scanning the emptiness, as if expecting this to be some kind of prank. "This isn't funny," she said. "It wasn't meant to be," I replied. They exchanged a glance, fear mixed with confusion. Not fear of losing the furniture, fear of losing control. Landon approached me, setting his palms on the counter the way he had earlier, trying again to claim space. But there was no chair for him to sit in, no comfort left to cushion the truth. "Mom, what is going on?" he demanded. "Where is everything?" I studied his face, the same face I once kissed goodnight after working double shifts, the same face I shielded from disappointment when his father walked out. A mother carries memories her children forget, but she also carries boundaries her children test. Slowly, deliberately, I opened the binder clip and closed it again. The sound echoed in the empty room like a tiny metallic promise. "You said my paycheck should go into your account," I said. "You said I didn't need anything anymore." His face reddened. "Mom, that's not what I meant. That is exactly what you meant." Savannah crossed her arms, chin lifting. "We were trying to help you. Older people make mistakes with money." I looked at her with a calmness she didn't expect. "I have audited men twice your age into early retirement. I know every trick, every loophole, every quiet theft someone thinks no one will catch." Savannah's confidence faltered. Landon shifted uncomfortably. "Are you trying to accuse us of something I'm not accusing you?" I said. "I'm telling you I know." His eyes widened. No what? The question hung in the air. Behind it, fear. Behind the fear, guilt. Behind the guilt, truth. The truth I had pieced together over the last 10 days, the unexplained withdrawals, the credit inquiries I never authorized, the utility bill under my name for an address that wasn't mine. The afternoon I heard someone in my house while I was showering. The soft click of a door, the missing envelope from my desk drawer. A mother may ignore disrespect, but she does not ignore evidence. You came here tonight, I said, expecting dinner. Savannah swallowed. But what you really came for was a home you thought you controlled. I stood slowly, not with anger, not with theatrics, with absolute clarity. You took my trust for granted, I said, so I took everything else away. Every object in this room belonged to me. And now so does the truth. Landon stepped back. Mom, you're scaring me. Good, I said quietly. Fear is the first step toward understanding. Savannah's voice shook. Where did you move everything? Somewhere safe. The binder clip clicked softly in my hand, a sound as steady as my heartbeat. And what was missing in this room, I continued, is nothing compared to what I discovered about you. Silence pressed into the empty space. Landon stared at me as if seeing me for the first time, as if realizing that the woman who raised him alone, who sacrificed everything, was not someone he could control. Not anymore. And in that moment, I understood something I should have realized years ago. A mother's love can build a life, but her silence can end one. I didn't sleep that night. Not out of fear, but because silence finally had room to stretch inside my house. When you strip a home down to its bones, you realize how much noise comes from the things you tolerated rather than the things you loved. After Landon and Savannah left storming out without their usual entitlement, empty-handed and confused, I locked the door behind them. The click of the deadbolt echoed through the bare room. That sound, sharp and final, felt like reclaiming a small piece of myself. I brewed a cup of chamomile tea, the steam curling upward in the quiet. My kitchen felt different without the clutter, lighter, clearer, honest. I carried my tea to the window and watched the streetlights flicker across the cul-de-sac. For the first time in years, I didn't feel the weight of their expectations pressing on my chest. I held the brass binder clip in my hand, turning it slowly between my fingers. That little piece of metal had been with me through 3 decades of payroll audits, policy disputes, and careful investigations. It had never failed me. People fail, I thought. Systems fail, love fails, but documentation does not. The next morning, I woke before sunrise. Habit, really. Years of early commutes had trained my body to rise before the world did. The house was cold, without furniture to absorb sound, so my footsteps echoed as I moved through the hall. On the kitchen counter rested the folder I had assembled 2 nights before they confronted me. Bank statements, credit inquiries, utility records, each page, a piece of a puzzle I wished I never had to solve. I sat at the counter, pen in hand, and began marking dates. There is a calm that comes with precision. While emotions blur, numbers never lie. At 7:10 a.m., a soft knock interrupted the quiet. I froze. Landon never woke up this early unless someone else paid him to. Savannah wouldn't dare show her face without full makeup. I opened the door a small crack, but it wasn't them. It was Iris Coleman. Her silver hair was tied in a loose bun, her robe bright floral and entirely unapologetic. Iris had moved into the house across the street 3 months ago, and she was impossible to ignore, not because she was loud, but because she was sharp, observant, and oddly comforting in her bluntness. She squinted at me. "Why does your house look like an IKEA showroom before the furniture arrives?" I exhaled. "I made some changes." She lifted an eyebrow. "Did you kill someone?" "Not yet." She snorted. "Good. I have arthritis. Can't help you bury a body." I stepped aside, letting her in. She looked around the empty living room, arms crossed, nodding like an inspector at a renovation site. "I like it," she said. "It tells a story." What story is that? She turned to me, a woman finally putting herself first. The kettle clicked off behind us. I walked back to pour us both tea. Iris settled on the floor as if it were a perfectly natural place to sit. Her presence filled the room in a way furniture never had. She sipped her tea and let out a thoughtful hum. So, what did your son do? I froze mid-sip. How did you please? She said. I raised 3 boys. I know the look of a woman who's been financially ambushed. Her accuracy startled me. I hesitated, but she didn't pressure me. She simply waited, patient, grounded, and unafraid of the truth. My son tried to put my paycheck into his account, I finally said. Iris didn't react with shock. She reacted with understanding. That's how it starts, she said. First they help you, then they own you. My chest tightened. You've been through this. She nodded. My younger sister. She drained every dollar of our mother's savings before we realized what was happening. None of us saw it coming. Her voice was steady, but her eyes went distant, old grief resurfacing. What did you do? I asked. The only thing you can do, she said. Take back what's yours, or lose yourself trying. She reached into her robe pocket and pulled out a folded business card. If you ever need a lawyer who doesn't faint at the word fraud, call this man. Gavin Holt. He's relentless. That name would matter later, far more than I understood in that moment. I placed the card on the counter beside the binder clip. Thank you, Iris. She waved her hand dismissively. I'm too old for politeness. Now tell me the rest. And so I did. Not everything, not yet, but enough for her to understand the shape of what had happened. The withdrawals, the unauthorized credit activity, the utilities in my name, the strange presence in my home. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she let out a slow breath. Clara, this isn't carelessness, this is strategy. Someone planned this. The knot in my stomach tightened. I know. She stood and dusted off her robe. Good, because if you know you can win, and I don't like seeing good women lose. She left with a parting line, call Gavin, and let me know when you need help spray painting over your son's ego. That made me laugh despite everything. After she left, I gathered my papers and returned to the kitchen island. My phone vibrated. A message from Landon. We're coming over again tonight. We need to talk. Of course they were. Control slips and people like them panic. I placed the phone face down and continued highlighting. Each line, each number, each date built the foundation I needed. A mother may forgive disrespect, but she does not ignore theft. Around noon, sunlight streamed through the empty windows, landing on the binder clip. Its shadow stretched across the documents like an arrow pointing toward truth. I stared at it, remembering the last time I felt powerful. It had been years, maybe decades. Becoming a parent turns strength into sacrifice without you noticing. You give, then give again until giving becomes the only language you speak. But languages can be relearned. My eyes fell on Iris's card. Gavin Holt, Elder Financial Protection, former fraud investigator. I reached for the phone before doubt could creep in. When the call connected, a calm male voice answered. This is Gavin. Mr. Holt. I said my name is Clara Merritt. I believe I need help before something much worse happens. He didn't hesitate. Tell me what you know, he said. Then after I gave him the summary, he replied with a sentence that felt like someone turning on a light in a dark room. Ms. Merritt, everything you're describing points to intentional financial abuse. And you're right, this will escalate fast. The question is simple. Are you ready to take this seriously? I looked around my empty home, at the papers spread before me, at the binder clip waiting in my hand. Yes, I said, I am. Good, he replied, because silence only protects you if you use it correctly. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Bring everything. When the call ended, I placed the binder clip firmly over the stack of evidence. Its snap echoed through the room. Not angry, not scared, just certain. For the first time in years, I wasn't losing anything. I was building something, a case, a boundary, a new version of myself. And tomorrow, everything would begin. The next morning arrived with a heaviness that felt almost ceremonial. I woke before the sun again the way I used to back when deadlines ruled my life and payroll cycles turned my week into a metronome. Old habits return easily when survival asks for them. I dress simply, slate gray slacks, a soft white blouse, no jewelry except the thin gold bracelet my mother gave me when I turned 25. A reminder that dignity can be quiet and still be unbreakable. I placed the binder clip in my purse. It felt heavier today, as if it knew what role it was about to play. By 8:45, I stood in front of Holt & Price Legal Group, a modest building tucked between a dentist's office and a Mediterranean restaurant that never seemed to be open at the same hours twice. The sign was small, almost humble. That reassured me more than a gleaming glass tower ever could. Inside, the air smelled of fresh toner and lemon polish. A receptionist with soft curls and kind eyes smiled at me. "Mrs. Merritt, Mr. Holt is ready for you." I followed her down a hallway lined with framed newspaper clippings about elder rights cases. Real cases. Real people who looked like someone's grandmother or father. People who had been underestimated before they fought back. Gavin Holt stood when I entered his office. He was mid-50s tall with a calm energy that reminded me of someone who had seen human nature in all its shades and no longer surprised easily. "Clara," he greeted, extending his hand. "Come in." His office wasn't intimidating. Stacks of case files sat in neat towers. A pot of coffee steamed in the corner. A large map of the state hung behind his desk, dotted with colored pins. I took a seat. He folded his hands, leaning slightly forward. "Show me everything." I opened my binder. Page after page. Transactions, credit inquiries, utility bills, dates, locations, my neat handwriting circling entries I never authorized. He reviewed each page with the patience of someone who understood that every line represented a small wound. After the last page, he exhaled thoughtfully. "This is not impulsive behavior," he said. "It is a pattern, deliberate, structured, calculated." I nodded. Hearing the truth out loud steadied me. He continued, "Your son did not stumble into this. He constructed it." My stomach tightened, but I kept my face still. I suspected that, I said, but I needed confirmation. "You were right to come here." He tapped one of the pages. "This alone is felony-level misuse of financial identity, and the unauthorized withdrawals add another layer." A strange calm spread through me. The kind that comes after truth stops being avoided. "What do we do next?" I asked. He smiled, not warmly, but with approval. "We build a case so detailed even the most expensive defense attorney cannot wiggle through it." He handed me a checklist. "Step 1, secure yourself. New bank accounts. New PINs. You already started that. Step 2, document every interaction from this point forward. If they call, do not engage emotionally. Keep your responses short and factual. Step 3, gather external witnesses. Anyone who has seen patterns of behavior. I thought of Iris. I did not need to wonder whether she would help. Gavin poured us both cups of coffee. And step 4, he said, sliding a new folder toward me, learn the law well enough that you stop fearing what could happen and start focusing on what will happen. The folder held pamphlets about elder fraud, financial abuse patterns, and legal timelines, everything written plainly, no confusing jargon, no patronizing tone. I liked that. "Clara," he said carefully, "are you prepared for the emotional cost of pursuing this?" "Yes," I answered, surprising myself with how quickly the word left my mouth. He nodded. "Good. Because the people who abuse seniors often rely on one thing, silence. You already broke that." A rare sense of pride warmed my chest. I left the office with the binder heavier than before, full of not just documents now, but direction. Outside, the late morning sun painted the sidewalk a soft yellow. I walked slowly to my car, feeling an unfamiliar steadiness in my steps. This was not revenge. This was reclamation. Halfway down the block, I spotted Iris sitting alone at an outdoor cafe sipping something topped with whipped cream. The mug looked too large for her small hands. She waved the moment she recognized me. I joined her and she pushed the mug toward me. "Here, try this. It's hot cocoa with cinnamon. Life's too short to drink boring beverages." I smiled. "I just came from meeting the lawyer." Her eyes sharpened with interest. "And he's taking the case." She leaned back, satisfied. "Good. I hate bullies, especially the ones raised to know better." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Cars passed. Someone walked a golden retriever in a little raincoat. The world looked remarkably normal for a day that felt like a hinge in my life. She eventually asked, "So what's next?" "Evidence," I said. "Witnesses, documentation." She nodded. "Well, if you need a sworn statement about how many times that boy showed up to eat like it was a free buffet, I'll write it myself." I laughed softly, shaking my head. "Thank you, Iris." Her expression softened. "Caring for yourself is not abandonment, it's survival. Remember that." I did. We parted ways and I drove home. My house was still empty, still echoing, still honest. On the kitchen counter lay my notebook. I opened it to a clean page and wrote a date at the top. Thursday, 4:12 p.m. Landon texted again. "Wants to come by tonight, says it's urgent." I set the pen down. Urgent rarely means danger when it comes from people like Landon. Urgent means exposure. Urgent means fear of losing control. I stood at the window again, the afternoon light stretching long shadows across my bare floors. I imagined Landon and Savannah arriving that night expecting the mother they once depended on to be silent, predictable, contained. But something had shifted inside me. Something firm. Something clear. For years, I built his life. Now I was rebuilding mine. And tonight when they walked through my door, I would not greet them as the mother they remembered. I would greet them as the woman they underestimated, the one holding the truth and the proof. The sun had barely begun to sink when I heard footsteps outside, not hurried, not hesitant, confident. I recognized Landon's gait long before the knock landed on my door. A child's footsteps leave a mark in a mother's memory the way handwriting does in paper fibers. You never forget either. I stood in the center of my empty living room. No distractions, no comfort, only truth. 3 knocks, sharp, impatient. I opened the door. Landon pushed in without waiting, Savannah close behind her, perfume flooding the doorway with the scent of something sweet, layered over something sharp. He stopped short when he saw the barren room again. Even though he had walked into this emptiness the night before, his brain still refused to process it as permanent. "Mom," he said, visibly annoyed. "This is getting ridiculous. We need to talk." I gestured toward the kitchen, the only place with 2 chairs left. "Then talk." Savannah crossed her arms, looking around. "I cannot believe you actually kept it like this. Are you having a breakdown?" "No," I said. "I am having clarity." Landon paced the room, once stopping in front of me. "We need those papers signed," he said. "This is not optional anymore. You need help, and I am trying to offer it." "Help does not begin with taking someone's paycheck," I replied. He gave a strained laugh. "Mom, you are 63. You shouldn't be worrying about money. Let me handle it." I studied his face. His jaw was tight, his eyes restless. Not the expression of someone trying to protect, the expression of someone afraid of losing a prize he already counted as his. "Sit," I said. My voice was calm, too calm for him not to obey. He sat. Savannah followed reluctantly. I placed my binder on the kitchen island. The metal of the clip gleamed under the ceiling light. Suddenly, the room felt smaller, like courtroom air before a verdict. "Before we talk about signatures," I said, "I want to ask you something simple." Landon leaned back. "Fine. Ask. Where were you on June 21st at 9:48 in the morning?" He frowned. "What does that have to do with anything?" "Answer the question." He shifted. "I was at work." I slid a paper across the counter. "No. You were at a bank branch across town. the one I have never stepped inside. He looked at the paper, his face drained of color. Savannah grabbed it from his hand. What is this supposed to prove that someone withdrew $1,200 with my debit card that morning? I did not do that, he snapped. This is ridiculous. I leaned in, then explained why the security footage shows someone entering with a gray jacket identical to yours and your exact height. Savannah's eyes widened. Security footage. Evidence, I said softly. I collect it now. The silence that followed felt like the moment before glass shatters. Landon stood abruptly. His chair screeched against the tile. Mom, enough. You are twisting things. You're acting paranoid. I was trying to help you, and you are turning it into some crime drama. I reached into the binder again. I am not turning it into anything. You already did. I pulled out the utility bill in my name, then the credit card statement I never opened, then the medical charges from the year I was hospitalized. Each page hit the island with a soft thud. Truth rarely crashes. It lands quietly and destroys loudly. Savannah's face shifted from irritation to something colder. She looked at Landon. Did you open this card? He avoided her eyes. Savannah. Let me handle it. Did you? She repeated. His silence was the admission she did not expect. She stepped back from him slowly. The way someone steps back from a fire they just now realized is spreading under their feet. My heartbeat stayed steady. Years in payroll trained me for this. Numbers do not lie even when people do. You think I do not know patterns, I said. I built my entire career catching them. Landon slammed his palm onto the counter. I am your son. I deserve something from you after everything I went through growing up without a father. I looked him in the eyes, calm as still water. You do not deserve my bank account. You do not deserve my identity. You do not deserve access to my life because you are unhappy with your own. You owe me, he hissed. No, I replied. I owed you food, education, safety, love. I provided all of those. Once you reached adulthood, all debts were paid in full. Savannah's voice shook. Landon, tell her the truth. He turned on her. Stop talking. She took another step back, and then something happened that surprised even me. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small leather folder. Clara, she said quietly, you need to see this. Landon froze. Savannah, don't. Her hands trembled as she opened the folder. Inside were screenshots, dozens of them, transactions, phone logs, messages, all addressed to a woman's name I did not recognize, a name followed by a heart emoji. Savannah swallowed. He wasn't taking your money for us. Landon's voice cracked. Savannah, stop. He was taking it for her, she finished. My breath caught. Not because of betrayal. I already had that. Because of the ease with which greed branches into new shapes. Landon lunged for the folder, but Savannah held it tight. You said it would be quick, she whispered. You said you would get her accounts transferred before anyone noticed. You said she would be too distracted to fight. Her voice broke. You used me too. The shift in the room was almost visible, a quiet, terrible symmetry of consequences. Landon backed away, cornered by truth he could not outrun. Savannah slowly set the folder on the counter next to my binder. This is the real reason he wanted everything moved into his name, she said. My hand steadied on the countertop. I was no longer looking at a son. I was looking at a man who treated every person in his life as currency. Landon dropped into the chair again, face pale, breath irregular. Mom, he said in a choked voice. Please listen. I am listening, I replied. Probably for the first time in a very long while. He buried his head in his hands. Savannah stepped aside, arms wrapped around herself. The first confrontation had finally happened, not with shouting, not with chaos, but with documentation, with evidence, with a woman who had finally stopped underestimating herself. I closed the binder slowly. The click of the clip echoed through the kitchen like a quiet verdict. Both of you need to leave, I said. Savannah nodded immediately and stepped toward the door. Landon didn't move. "Mom, please, I can explain." "You will," I said, "to my lawyer." His face drained again. "Lawyer." "Yes." I walked to the door and held it open. The sunlight spilled in like a spotlight on the truth. "This conversation is over. The next one will not be in my kitchen." He stood shakily. Savannah exited first. Landon followed, turning back once, as if expecting the old version of me to reappear. She didn't. I closed the door, locked it, leaned my back against it, and smiled at the silence that followed. It no longer felt empty. It felt earned. I woke with a sense of purpose I had not felt in years. Not excitement, not fear. Something steadier, like the quiet click of a lock turning in the right direction after too many years of turning the wrong way. The confrontation from the night before replayed in my mind while I made coffee. Savannah's trembling hands. Landon's silence when the evidence cornered him. The folder with the other woman's name. The truth had finally stepped into the open. Now it was time to act. I laid out my breakfast the same way I used to prepare tax audits at my old job, calm, organized, ready for battle. Oatmeal blueberries, a notepad, a pen. The ritual steadied me. At 8:23, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. For a moment, my chest tightened. But it was not Landon. It was Gavin. "Clara," he said, voice crisp as a courtroom clerk's. "Are you available to come to the office this morning? I want to move quickly. You are dealing with a son who is attempting to protect a failing scheme. People like that escalate under pressure." "Yes," I said. "I have new evidence. Bring everything." Click. I dressed again in the same calm, neutral tones. My mother's gold bracelet glimmered faintly on my wrist. Strength sometimes hides in heirloom jewelry. Before leaving the house, I looked around once more. The empty rooms no longer felt stripped. They felt ready. I locked the door behind me. The attorney's second meeting at Holt & Price Legal Group. Gavin waved me into his office like a general who had already mapped the incoming battle. "You said you had new evidence," he began. I set Savannah's folder on the table. He opened it. One page, then another. His eyebrows rose slightly. "This is stronger than I expected," he said. "What does it mean for the case?" "It means your son's behavior crosses into multiple categories of financial exploitation. It also suggests motive tied to concealed financial obligations or relationships. Judges take that seriously." He paused and tapped one screenshot with his pen. "And this woman. She appears repeatedly. That is important." I sat straighter. Savannah provided all of it voluntarily. "That makes her a potential corroborating witness," he said. "And based on what you told me yesterday, she may cooperate fully if encouraged." I nodded. "Next step," Gavin said, "is to expand the evidence package. I want to subpoena his financial records, credit pulls, and any accounts that have unusual deposits. Can we do that already?" "With your consent, yes. Because he used your identity without authorization." A mixture of anger and relief washed through me. For the first time, the law was not a distant institution. It was a tool in my hand. Gavin leaned back in his chair. "We will also file a temporary financial protection order. That prevents him from touching anything connected to you." "Good," I said. "I want boundaries that hold." He smiled slightly. "You are remarkably composed, Clara." I took a breath. I have spent years letting fear make decisions for me. I am done with that. He nodded, once approving, professional, almost proud. "The filing will take place tomorrow morning. Prepare yourself." He will likely attempt emotional manipulation once he realizes what is happening. "I am prepared," I said, and I meant it. The evidence hunt back home. I spread papers across the kitchen island, creating the battlefield map of my own life. Bank records, old statements, archived emails, printed messages, notes I had taken months ago but ignored because I believed the lie that mothers should endure quietly. I sifted through every document with forensic precision. I highlighted dates, circled inconsistencies, Annotated patterns only someone trained in payroll fraud analysis would recognize. The deeper I went, the clearer it became that Landon had been building this for months, maybe a year. He had counted on my trust, on my guilt, on my silence. He miscalculated. At noon, exhausted but sharper than I had felt in years, I closed the binder. Everything was there now, tight, organized, bulletproof. Someone knocked on my window. I nearly jumped. Then I heard it. The unmistakable sound of someone tapping metal with a spoon. Iris. I opened the back door and found her standing there with a thermos in one hand and a turkey sandwich in the other. "You eat, yet?" she asked. "No." She shoved the sandwich at me. "Good." I had a feeling. "Your face this morning screamed, woman gathering evidence but forgetting food." I brought fuel. I laughed despite myself. "Iris, you did not have to." "Oh, I absolutely had to." She cut in, stepping inside without waiting for permission. "You are doing heavy lifting. Emotional, legal, and financial. You need protein." She glanced at the binder and whistled. "That looks like a mortgage on a small country. It is everything I said, every document, every transaction." He left fingerprints all over it. She leaned over the table, scanning the pages like a hawk. "You know, when people lie, they forget details. But paperwork does not. Paperwork is the dull knife that cuts the deepest." I shook my head. "Iris, sometimes I think you missed your calling as an investigator." "Oh, honey, I raised 3 sons who lied for sport. I have a PhD in human nonsense." She poured coffee from her thermos into 2 mismatched mugs she pulled from her oversized purse. "For the nerves," she said. We clinked mugs gently. For a few moments, we just stood there in the quiet kitchen, the afternoon sun filtering through the blinds, glinting off the binder clip. "You are doing the right thing," Iris said softly. "And right things feel wrong at first, especially when they involve your child." I swallowed. A tight ache crawled up my chest, the kind that feels like a thread being pulled from the inside. I steadied my breath instead of letting it break. "Of course it hurts. You grew this boy. You fed him, taught him, held him when he was feverish." She paused. "But you cannot let motherhood become a leash he yanks when he wants power." The truth of her words settled on me like a weighted blanket. She poked the binder clip. "So, what is next?" I exhaled slowly. "Tomorrow we file the temporary protection order." She grinned. "Excellent. Paperwork and accountability, my favorite combination. Better than chocolate cake, and I do not say that lightly." I smiled. "Thank you, Iris." She stood, wiped her hands on her floral robe, and pointed at the binder. "You are not alone. And if anyone pulls up to your house tonight trying to guilt trip, you call me first. I will bring my garden hose. I am not afraid to spray entitlement off a driveway." A laugh burst out of me, real, unforced, the first one in months. When she left, the house felt warm again. At 5:42, as I was reviewing the last of the documents, an email alert flashed across my screen. Subject account login attempt blocked location unknown device. Time 5:39 p.m. My heart tightened, but not with fear, with recognition. Landon was trying to access my account. The blocked login attempt was a footprint in wet cement. A man running, slipping, grabbing at control he no longer had. I forwarded the alert to Gavin with a brief note. "He has started. Clara." Within 30 seconds, my phone rang. "This confirms what I suspected," Gavin said. "We need to accelerate. Be at the courthouse at 9 tomorrow. I will handle the filings." "Understood." "And Clara," he added, "do not respond to any messages from him tonight. Silence is your strongest tool right now." "I know," I said. "I learned that recently." We ended the call. I closed my laptop slowly. The kitchen lights hummed softly. Outside, the sky darkened to indigo. The game had shifted. They thought they were the hunters, but paperwork had teeth, and tomorrow morning the law would bite. I placed the binder on the center of the table, squared its edges, rested my hand on it. For the first time in a long time, I felt protected. Not by Landon, not by love, by truth. Morning arrived cold and sharp. The air felt like a fresh sheet of paper waiting for ink. I dressed deliberately the way someone prepares for a photograph they will never fully see, but will always remember. Slate gray trousers again, a navy sweater, low heels that made quiet sounds on courthouse tile. I left early, not because I was nervous, but because I wanted time to walk without rushing, time to breathe, time to acknowledge that after years of shrinking myself to keep the peace, I was finally standing at my full height. The courthouse parking lot was half empty. A few attorneys hurried inside carrying case files. A couple fought softly near their car. A woman my age stood at the entrance gripping a folder like a lifeline. We exchanged a nod. No words. Some battles do not need introductions. Inside, the security guard checked my purse, then handed it back with a simple, respectful, "Good morning." No one here knew me as Mom. No one here saw me as a resource. It was liberating. Gavin stood at the end of the hallway checking his watch. When he saw me, he straightened. "Clara, you are punctual. I like that. Old habit," I said. He led me toward a private room off the main corridor. Before we file, he said, "I want to walk you through exactly what will happen." He opened a folder labeled Temporary Financial Protection Order. This order is designed to freeze all accounts tied to your personal information. He will not be able to transfer funds, access your banking change passwords, or open credit lines connected to you. It prevents him from using your identity in any capacity until the full hearing. I nodded. Good. He looked me in the eyes. "Clara, I want to say something plainly. What you are doing is not vindictive. It is protective. Many seniors never take this step because someone convinces them it is disloyal. But loyalty without boundaries becomes self-destruction." "I understand that now," I said quietly. "And one more thing," he added. "He will panic." I took a breath. He already has. Gavin's expression sharpened. "Did he contact you?" "He tried to access my bank account last night. That means he knows control is slipping," Gavin said. "Expect escalation." I steadied my hands on my knees. "I am ready." He studied me for a moment. "Yes, I think you are." The filing. The clerk's office smelled like toner and morning coffee. A woman behind the counter typed steadily, barely glancing up when we approached. Gavin handed over the stack of documents. Temporary Financial Protection Order for Clara Merritt. The clerk flipped through the pages with practiced indifferent efficiency, stamping each one with a heavy thud. "Judge Peterson reviews these within the hour," she said. "You will be notified." We stepped away from the counter. "That is it?" I asked. "That is it," Gavin replied. "Paperwork does not shout. It simply moves." He checked his watch. "We should wait in the hall." We sat on a long wooden bench. The old varnish smelled faintly of lemon and thyme. People passed by in waves, families, lawyers, officers, couples who looked like they were ending something. The courthouse was a museum of consequences. I folded my hands. "Do you think the judge will approve it?" "With the evidence you provided," Gavin said, "I would be astonished if she did not." 10 minutes passed, then 15, then 20. At precisely 26 minutes and 40 seconds, Gavin was the type to notice I heard the clerk call my name. "Mrs. Merritt." We approached the counter. The clerk handed me a stamped packet. "Your temporary order is approved," she said, effective immediately. My lungs filled deeply the way they used to when I swam as a teenager, clean, cold, alive. Gavin nodded, satisfied. "This is the first wall between you and him. More will follow." "What happens now?" I asked. "Now," he said, "we inform the institutions, and we wait for him to realize he has lost access." He checked his phone. "It may happen sooner than you think." The spiral. We left the courthouse. The morning sun had risen, fully painting the parking lot in sheets of light. I sat in my car, letting the engine warm. My phone buzzed just as I shifted into reverse. "Incoming call, Landon." I silenced it. 10 seconds later, another call, then a text. Mom, what is going on? I cannot access anything. Call me now. Another. My card got declined at the gas station. This is serious. Answer your phone. Another. Did you do something? I looked at the screen, breathed slowly, and placed the phone face down on the passenger seat. Silence was a boundary he could finally feel. I drove home. The living room looked brighter than usual, the bare floors reflecting sunlight in soft patterns. My phone buzzed again and again, vibrating across the countertop like a trapped insect. I did not touch it. At 11:41, the calls changed tone. You cannot do this. We need to talk. You are making a mistake. Then the one I had been expecting. I am coming over. I typed a single reply. Do not come to my house. All communication goes through my attorney. I paused, then added, this is not a discussion. When I hit send, it felt like closing a door I should have closed years ago. Iris and the comedy beat. By late afternoon, the adrenaline had settled enough that I could think clearly again. I was making tea when I heard a sharp knock at the back door. It was not Landon's knock. It was too cheerful. Iris stepped inside before I finished unlocking it. Well, she said, tossing her purse on the counter, your phone must be melting. It is, I admitted. She grinned. Good. That means the system works. She pointed at my tea kettle. Make 2. The day demands it. As I prepared the cups, Iris scanned the temporary order lying on the counter. She clapped once, loud. Look at that. A judge agreeing with common sense. Miracles happen. I smiled. Thank you again for pushing me to do this. I did nothing. You were always capable. You just needed someone to scratch the fog off the window. She sat at the island swinging her foot. So? What did the man-child do when he discovered his pipeline dried up? He called 5 times. Texted 10. Did he show up? He said he was coming. I told him not to. Her eyebrows lifted. You said it. Not the lawyer. Not a letter. You said it. Yes. She raised her mug like a toast. To boundaries. I tapped my mug against hers. To boundaries. She studied me for a moment, then said, you look lighter. Not happy. Lighter. That is the first step. I feel stronger, I said. Good. Because he is not done yet, she replied. Men like him do not go quietly. They go loudly and foolishly. But loud and foolish leaves footprints, and footprints help cases. It made me laugh. The kind of laugh that shakes off fear like dust from an old coat. Iris patted my hand. You did right. He will flail. Let him flail. The law will hold. The message that changed everything. After Iris left, the house grew quiet again, the kind of quiet that feels earned. At 6:24, just as the sky turned gold, my phone buzzed one more time. Not a call, not a text, an email. Subject, bank notification. Security alert, additional device linked to your financial profile. I opened it. A second attempt had been made to log into my accounts. Not just checking. Credit, investment, retirement. All blocked, all recorded. I forwarded it to Gavin. He called within 1 minute. This confirms escalation, he said. We move into phase 2. I will file for a full restraining order and immediate account injunction tomorrow. Good, I said. And Clara, he added, brace yourself. The moment he realizes the law is involved, he will try personal tactics. Expect anger, expect guilt, expect desperation. I looked at the binder on my table. I looked at the empty room. I looked at the chain of evidence connecting every part of my life back to the moment I started shrinking myself. I am not afraid anymore, I said. Gavin exhaled almost in relief. Then you are ahead of most people I represent. Get some rest. Tomorrow is another step forward. When the call ended, I stood in the middle of my home. My silence was no longer fear. It was power. The law was in motion. The boundaries were real. And Landon's panic was only the beginning of the unraveling he created. Tomorrow, the courthouse would see more of me, and so would justice. The next morning began strangely still. No wind, no birds, Even the refrigerator hummed more quietly than usual. It felt like the world was holding its breath, waiting for something to break. I stood at the kitchen sink, rinsing a mug when my phone lit up beside me. Landon. Not calling this time. Video chat request. I let it ring until it timed out. Silence followed sharp as winter air. Then came the messages. Mom, please answer. We need to talk. This has gone too far. A second string came immediately after. I am your son. You cannot freeze me out like this. You are destroying everything. Please, just talk to me. I reread each line slowly. The desperation sat between the words like fog, thick and shapeless. There was no apology, no accountability, only alarm at losing access. I sent one sentence. All communication goes through my attorney. Within seconds, I cannot talk to him. I need to talk to you. I am coming over. I typed, do not come. This is a legal boundary. Respect it. His reply arrived instantly. No, you owe me that conversation. I locked my phone, placed both palms against the cool countertop, and inhaled deeply. The old me would have softened, would have opened the door, would have let him talk until guilt melted my spine. But that woman was gone. I reached for my purse and keys. Iris, I whispered under my breath. Time for reinforcement. The drive to Iris's house. I did not run from him. I chose a safer place to stand. Her driveway was full of ceramic planters shaped like owls. She said they scared away raccoons. I doubted that. The owls looked too cheerful to be alarming. I knocked once, and her voice floated through the door. Unless you are a man with a clipboard and bad news come in. I walked inside. Iris stood in the kitchen wearing oversized sunglasses indoors and a robe patterned with lemons. Well, she said, crossing her arms, your face says your son is spiraling. He is, I replied. She nodded once. Good. Spirals reveal truth. I sat at her small wooden table, hands wrapped around a mug she pushed toward me. Let me guess, she said. He tried the emotional approach. Yes. And then he tried the guilt approach. Yes. And now he is planning the physical approach. I blinked. What do you mean? Iris pointed her thumb toward my house. He is either already circling your street or packing to do so. Before I could respond, I heard a car engine in front of her home. Iris marched to the window and lifted one slat of the blinds. Well, she said, he is punctual. I closed my eyes for a moment. I told him not to come. And he ignored you. Iris straightened. Then we handle this the smart way. Call Gavin now. I dialed immediately. Gavin answered on the second ring. Clara. He is here, I said. Outside. There was no hesitation in his voice. Do not engage. Stay inside. I will call local police and inform them of the temporary protection order. They will handle this. Thank you. Clara? He added, this is exactly why the order exists. He is escalating because he is losing control. Hold your position. I hung up. Iris, meanwhile, had gone to retrieve something from her hall closet. She returned holding a bright orange water gun the size of a small fire extinguisher. What is that? I asked. Peacekeeping equipment, she replied. I shook my head. Iris, this is serious. So is this water gun, she insisted. It sprays 30 feet. I bought it to keep teenagers from stealing my azaleas. Despite the tension tightening my chest, a laugh escaped me. Put it away. She grumbled but complied. The doorbell rang. Neither of us moved. The ringing came again, longer this time, then pounding. Mom Landon shouted, I know you are in there. Open the door, Iris muttered. That tone alone deserves a restraining order. We stayed silent. He knocked again. Mom, talk to me. I am begging you. The word begging was rough forced, shaped by panic rather than remorse. My phone buzzed. A text. If you do not open the door, I will break the window. I stiffened. Iris's eyes narrowed like a predator, sensing movement. That she said is where his mistake becomes your advantage. Within seconds, 2 police cruisers turned the corner lights flashing silently. Gavin worked quickly. The officers approached him. Landon backed away, hands raised, bewildered. I watched from the window, hidden behind Iris's curtains. An officer asked something. Landon gestured violently, pointing toward Iris's house. The second officer shook his head and showed him a printout. The temporary order, my name, his restrictions. Landon's posture collapsed. His hands dropped. His anger dimmed into something smaller, almost childlike, but still dangerous. The officers told him to leave immediately. One held his arm lightly but firmly, steering him toward his car. Landon looked at Iris's house again, not in remorse, in disbelief, as if everything he believed about control had been ripped open. He got into his car, slammed the door, and peeled away. Only when silence returned did I exhale. After the storm, Iris poured me another cup of tea. Well, she said, sitting heavily, that was dramatic. Yes, I whispered. You did perfectly. You held the line. I nodded slowly. I never wanted it to reach this point. Iris placed her hand over mine. Abuse never politely stops at the point we want. It stops where boundaries are enforced. Her words settled somewhere deep in my chest. My phone buzzed again. Not Landon, Gavin. I answered. Clara, he said. The officers confirmed he attempted a violation of the temporary order. That strengthens your case significantly. We will move forward with the full protective order immediately. Is he in trouble? I asked. Yes, Gavin replied. This is documented escalation. Judges take it seriously. But what matters now is your safety and your peace. We are on the right path. I hung up and stood near Iris's kitchen sink, watching a pair of sparrows hop along her fence. For the first time, I felt the emotional cost of everything. Not fear, not guilt, but grief for what motherhood sometimes becomes. A slow erosion until you enforce a shoreline. Iris stepped beside me. You okay? Yes, I said softly. I am. You are stronger than you think, she replied, and stronger than he ever expected. I looked at her then, at the sun slanting through her kitchen window, turning her lemon-patterned robe into something almost glowing. A tiny laugh rose in my throat. Iris. I said thank you for all of this. She waved her hand. Please. This is the most excitement I have had since my cat stole jewelry from the neighbor. I shook my head. Your life should be a television show. It is, she said. You are just in the best episode. The boundary that held. When I returned home later that afternoon, my living room welcomed me with its quiet and its honesty. No furniture, no noise, no intrusions. Just space, just air, just clarity. I set my purse down and touched the binder of evidence still sitting at the center of my table, like a living heartbeat. Landon's emotional tactics had failed. His guilt had failed. His intimidation had failed. Because I had changed. Because the law had stepped in. Because evidence speaks a language emotion cannot override. The house felt safe again. And for the first time in years, so did I. The morning after the police escorted Landon away felt deceptively calm. The kind of calm that settles over a house after a storm, but before the damage beneath the surface rises. I brewed coffee in silence, listening to the drip of each steady drop. It felt like a metronome telling me to stay composed. I had just sat down with my notebook when my doorbell rang. Not a pounding knock. Not hostility. A polite ring. I frowned. Very few people knew my routine well enough to show up this early. I opened the door a cautious inch. Standing on my porch was Pastor Elaine Whitford from the community church 3 blocks away. A woman with gentle features, warm eyes, and a voice that could soften even the stiffest Sunday afternoon. But I had not attended church regularly in years, and she had never come to my house uninvited. Clara, she said kindly, may I come in? My stomach tightened. This had Landon written all over it. Still, I stepped aside. Of course. She entered with a careful grace, folding her hands in front of her. Your son came to see me last night, she offered gently. I closed the door. I suspected he might. He was very distressed, she continued. He said you were in trouble. that you had pushed him away suddenly, that you refused to speak with him. I exhaled slowly. He left out context. I gathered she said, which is why I wanted to hear from you directly, rather than take his words as the whole story. Her humility softened the tension in my shoulders. We sat at the kitchen island facing each other across the clean, empty space. What did he tell you? I asked. She hesitated. That you froze his accounts in anger, that you were acting irrational, that he feared for your well-being. I folded my hands steady. He lost access because he used my identity for financial gain. The court intervened. Not me. Her eyebrows lifted quiet shock, replacing her pastoral concern. I see, she murmured. He did not mention that. Of course not. She took a breath. Clara, if everything you are telling me is true and I have no reason to doubt it, you are doing exactly what a responsible adult should do. I stared at her, surprised. You expected me to persuade you otherwise, she asked gently. Landon hoped you would. Her smile was small but knowing. People in the wrong always hope someone will rescue their narrative. She reached across the counter and placed her hand over mine. I am here to support you. Not him. If he tries to contact me again to use God as leverage, I will remind him that accountability is biblical. A quiet laugh escaped me. Thank you. Stay strong, she said, rising. And call me if he sends anyone else your way. When she left, the house felt calmer, not untouched, but steadied. People were beginning to see the truth. Not because I shouted it, but because evidence had a way of speaking even through the mouths of outsiders. A new attack. At noon, I headed to Gavin's office for an update. The sky was overcast, the kind of gray that makes buildings look sharper. Inside his office, he motioned me to sit. You handled the incident yesterday exactly as you should, he said, and the police report strengthens everything. I set my binder on the table. He tried to recruit a pastor to intervene this morning. Gavin's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Emotional proxies, classic tactic. When direct control fails, they send someone perceived as authoritative. Did she pressure you? No, she wanted clarity. Good, he said, but be prepared. He will escalate to someone less neutral soon. As if summoned by the thought, Gavin's phone buzzed. He checked the screen and exhaled slowly. It begins, he said. What happened? He turned the phone so I could see the email from attorney Daniel Rowe. Subject concern. Regarding Mrs. Merritt's court, filing an attorney. My pulse quickened. He hired a lawyer. Yes, Gavin said calmly. He found someone willing to challenge the temporary order. He opened the email. Attorney Rowe claimed I was confused, that I misunderstood transactions, that Landon was acting in my best interest, that the order was unnecessary, that the court should reconsider. My chest tightened, but not with fear, anger. Subtle, controlled, burning like a clean flame. Gavin leaned forward. This tactic is common. They question your competence. They attempt to rewrite your reality. They hope the court becomes unsure. Will the court believe him? I asked. No, he said firmly, because unlike his attorney, we have proof. He tapped the binder, and we are about to strengthen it. Strengthening the case. Gavin handed me a list. Today we gather secondary evidence, independent statements, transaction verification, identity confirmations. This is how we close all gaps. What do you need from me? I asked. 2 things, he said. First, contact your bank and ask for all flagged login attempts from the past 6 months. They will provide a digital record. Second, we need a notarized statement from the neighbor who has witnessed the pattern of your son coming to your home unannounced. Iris, I said immediately. He nodded. Exactly. She will be an excellent witness. Judges trust neighbors. And the third thing I asked. His expression softened. The hardest part. You will need to write your own declaration. A statement, a narrative, Gavin corrected, but factual. No embellishment, no emotion, just truth in sequence. Dates, events, impact. The thought of documenting my son's betrayal in plain legal language felt like swallowing glass. But I nodded. I will do it. Good. And Clara, he added, I will help you refine it. You will not face this alone. For a moment, the weight in my chest eased, Iris steady as ever. When I returned home, I knocked on Iris's door. She opened it wearing gardening gloves and holding pruning shears. Tell me who we are fighting today, she said. Would you be willing to provide a witness statement? Her eyes flashed. I have been waiting for you to ask. Come inside. My pen is already warm. Inside, she sat at her kitchen table and wrote quickly. Her handwriting was sharp, clear, decisive. She documented dates, observations, tone of voice, patterns of behavior. No exaggeration, just truth. She signed it, then looked up. You know, she said people underestimate older women because they think we are tired. They forget that tired women are the most dangerous. We have less patience and more clarity. I smiled. Thank you, Iris. Always, she said. Now go finish dismantling your son's nonsense before dinner. I made a pot roast. The declaration back at home. I sat at my dining table with a blank document in front of me. My hands trembled slightly at first, not with fear, but with the ache of telling a story I never wanted to write. I began with the date I first noticed a discrepancy in my account, then the day he told me to sign over my paycheck, then the bank withdrawals, then the unauthorized utility bills, then the credit card statement, then the confrontation in my kitchen, then the folder Savannah handed me, then the blocked login attempts, then the boundary he tried to break, then the police intervention. Each sentence was a small incision, precise, necessary, healing through exposure. When I finished, the document was 6 pages long, not dramatic, not embellished, just truth written in plain words. I emailed it to Gavin. He responded within 10 minutes. This is excellent, Clara. Strong, clear. Judges trust clarity. We will attach this to the full protection order filing tomorrow. I closed my laptop slowly. My breathing felt different, deeper, cleaner. For the first time, I saw the full picture of my son's actions, not as scattered wounds, but as a pattern. A harmful pattern now recorded, now witnessed, now undeniable. The message that shifted everything again. At 7:14 that evening, just as I sat with a cup of tea, my phone buzzed again. Not Landon, Savannah. Her message was short. I need to talk. I found something else. It is important. Please. For your own protection. My stomach dropped. Not fear. Recognition. There was more. More that he hid. More that she uncovered. More that the court needed to see. I tightened my grip on the phone. The next chapter in my life had just knocked. And this time, it was not a threat. It was a warning and a turning point. Savannah's message replayed in my mind over and over while I waited at the cafe we had chosen. A corner table near the window, shaded by a maple tree that tapped gently against the glass. The afternoon sun filtered through its leaves, casting dappled shadows across the table. Peaceful. Almost too peaceful for the weight she hinted at. When the door opened, Savannah stepped in, hugging her coat tightly around herself as if she were bracing against both cold air and truth. She spotted me and approached slowly. Her eyes were tired, not from lack of sleep, but from carrying something heavy for too long. Clara, she said quietly. Sit, I replied, offering a gentler tone than I expected from myself. She sat, fingers trembling, as she pulled a folded envelope from her purse. Not a thin envelope, a swollen one, stuffed with pages. I should have come sooner, she whispered. You are here now, I said. That is what matters. She placed the envelope on the table between us. This is everything, all of it. Things I found months ago, things I ignored because I believed him when he said it was temporary, or harmless, or none of my business. Her voice cracked on the last word. I did not touch the envelope yet. Tell me. She swallowed hard. Landon was not just using your accounts. He was using mine, and his coworkers. And the woman you saw in the screenshots. He was juggling so many lies he could not keep them straight anymore. A cold stillness seeped into my chest. What was he doing? I asked. Savannah lifted her chin, finally meeting my eyes. He was funneling money into a private account, not for bills, not for debt, for a plan. What plan? She closed her eyes. He wanted to move. I frowned. Move to another state, she said, with her. He had a job lined up, an apartment deposit already paid with stolen funds. He planned to leave in 2 months. His intention was to drain everything he could before disappearing. My stomach tightened, each word landing like a stone. He planned to run, she continued softly, and he wanted as much money as possible before he vanished. That is why he pushed so hard to get your paycheck. That is why he panicked when you resisted. I was silent for a moment. A long, steady inhale, then an even steadier exhale. What is in the envelope? Her fingers traced the corner of it. Bank statements he hid, messages he deleted, documents he printed but forgot to take with him, receipts, a copy of the lease for that apartment, applications he submitted under your identity. He took pictures of your driver's license when you were asleep on the couch last Christmas. A quiet, sharp ache spread through my ribs. Savannah continued. There is more. He tried to open a life insurance policy for you in his name. A sudden rush of heat shot through my spine. What? Yes. Her voice shook. I do not think he meant to hurt you physically, but he wanted access. He wanted money tied to you. Every part of his plan was financial. Every part of it required you being blind compliant or gone from the picture. A hollow heaviness settled inside me. Why are you telling me this now? Savannah looked down at her hands. I knew it was wrong. I knew he was going too far. But he kept saying you would be fine, that you would never fight back, that you were too soft, too loyal. Her voice lowered to a whisper. He was wrong. She straightened, and I was wrong for believing him, for staying silent, for letting things get this far. But yesterday when the police came, I realized what he truly was, and I am done protecting him. I finally reached for the envelope, sliding it toward me. It was heavy, heavier than anything I expected to carry in this lifetime. Savannah, I said calmly, you just became the most important witness in this case. She exhaled shakily. I know, and you need protection. She nodded. I already called a friend. I am staying with her until all of this is over. That is wise. She wiped her eyes quickly. I want to make things right. Whatever Gavin needs, whatever the court needs, I will cooperate. Her voice steadied. He hurt both of us, in different ways, but you were the one thing he thought he could control forever. He underestimated the wrong woman. I held her gaze. Thank you for telling me the truth. I am sorry, she whispered. I shook my head slowly. Do not apologize to me. Correct your path. You just did. She nodded once firmly, then she stood. If you need anything, call me. I am ready to testify. She placed her hand over mine for a brief moment, the gesture of someone stepping out of fear and into accountability, then left the cafe quietly. I sat alone, the envelope still warm from her hands. I did not open it yet. Some truths require preparation. The opening of the envelope. I waited until evening when the house was silent and the sky outside had deepened into navy blue. The lamp on my kitchen island cast a warm circle of light across the table. I opened the envelope. A cascade of papers spilled out. Bank statements, screen captures, printed emails, documents with forged signatures, copies of my driver's license, a photocopied application for a credit card I never requested. Then the apartment lease, a lease signed 2 weeks ago in another woman's name, with additional notes in Landon's handwriting, need Clara's paycheck by June. After that, we are set. A slow, cold determination filled my chest. This was not a confused son, not a misguided man, not a struggling adult who made poor decisions. This was deliberate exploitation, and now I had proof, real proof, irrefutable, court-ready. I stacked everything neatly, clipped it, and placed it in the binder between Chapter 5 and Chapter 6 of my documentation timeline. The binder was thick now, heavy, alive with truth. I turned off the lamp, letting the house fall into quiet darkness. Not fear, not grief, resolve. The call to Gavin. At 8:43, I dialed Gavin. He answered immediately. "Clara, I have new evidence," I said. "Describe it." I walked him through every item Savannah had handed me. His breathing tightened. "This changes the entire case," he said. "You now have evidence of premeditation, identity misuse, fraudulent applications, and planned financial flight. Judges take flight risk attempts extremely seriously. What does it mean for the next step?" "It means," he said, voice low and definitive, "we are no longer asking for protection. We are asking for full legal intervention, account injunctions, a complete freeze of all activity linked to him, possibly even criminal charges." I closed my eyes. "Will I have to testify?" "Yes. But with this evidence, your testimony will be the foundation. Savannah's will be the reinforcement. Iris's statement will form the perimeter." He paused. "Clara, this is the turning point. Cases do not get stronger than this." I opened my eyes steady. "Then let us continue." Gavin exhaled in something like pride. "You are handling this with remarkable clarity." I learned from the best, I said softly. He chuckled once. "I will draft the new motions tonight. Be ready at 9 tomorrow. I will." When I hung up, I stood in my empty living room, the binder held close to my chest. I was not afraid. I was prepared. The truth was no longer something I was gathering. It was something I was wielding, and tomorrow it would speak for me. The courthouse was busier than usual the morning of the hearing. People filled every bench, clutching folders, coffee cups, trembling hands, or stubborn pride. I walked through the double doors with my binder pressed against my side like a shield. Not fear, readiness, the kind of readiness that comes when someone takes back what was taken from them. Gavin met me halfway down the hall. He wore a navy suit, crisp and dignified, with an expression that blended focus and quiet confidence. "You prepared?" he asked. "Yes." "Good," he said. "Because we are walking in with a stronger case than many felony-level fraud hearings. Savannah is already inside. And Iris. She is waiting in the witness hall. We will call her if needed." He rested a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "Today the court will see the truth you have lived with for too long." We entered the courtroom. The judge, Honorable Marla Peterson, sat poised behind the bench glasses, low on her nose. She had the demeanor of someone who had read every file before walking into the room. My gaze shifted to the table across from us. Landon. He sat rigidly, jaw-clenched eyes darting between me and the judge. No warmth, no remorse, only fear wearing the mask of indignation. His attorney, Daniel Rowe, whispered something to him, but Landon barely nodded. Savannah sat behind me on the witness bench. When our eyes met, she gave me a small, steady nod. Strength, lending strength. The judge's voice cut through the murmurs. Case number 2471, Merritt versus Merritt. Petition for permanent financial protection order, identity, misuse injunction, and further relief. Rowe stood. "Your Honor, we maintain that Mrs. Merritt is confused and acting under emotional distress. The temporary orders were excessive. My client was simply doing his best to assist his mother." The judge glanced at the stack of documents Gavin submitted. "Mr. Rowe," she said, "your statement is noted. I will review evidence before entertaining claims of confusion." Gavin stood calmly. "Your Honor, we are prepared to demonstrate a clear pattern of intentional financial exploitation by Mr. Landon Merritt. We will present documents, witness testimony, and digital evidence showing misuse of identity, attempted fraudulent applications, and planned financial flight." Judge Peterson nodded. "Proceed." Gavin began methodically. Bank records, unauthorized withdrawals, credit applications, screenshots, email alerts, photographs of forged signatures. One by one, he laid everything before the judge. The courtroom grew silent. Not the silence of boredom, the silence of realization. Then he lifted the envelope Savannah had given me. Your Honor, this is a set of documents provided voluntarily by Mrs. Merritt's daughter-in-law. It includes copies of a lease in another state, printed applications under Mrs. Merritt's identity, and message logs indicating Mr. Merritt's intention to drain his mother's finances before relocating. Rowe objected weakly. Your Honor, these documents are taken without context. Context appears clear, the judge replied sharply. Objection overruled. Then came the strongest blow. Gavin presented the attempted life insurance application. The judge removed her glasses. Her eyes hardened. Mr. Merritt, she said, you attempted to open a policy in your mother's name without her knowledge or consent. Rowe jumped in. Your Honor, we dispute the origin of that document. Savannah rose, raising her hand. Your Honor, I can testify. I watched him fill it out. The judge nodded. You will testify shortly. Please be seated. Rowe swallowed. Landon's face drained of color. First was Savannah. She walked to the stand with trembling hands but a steady spine. She answered every question with clarity. She described the apartment lease, the plan to relocate, the pressure he exerted on both of us, the stolen photographs of my driver's license, the conversations he tried to erase. Rowe attempted to undermine her credibility. Gavin dismantled every attempt. Then came Iris. She stepped up wearing her lemon-patterned dress, an unshakable pillar of truth and comedic timing. Mrs. Coleman Gavin began, can you describe what you witnessed in relation to Landon Merritt's visits to his mother's home? Yes, she said firmly. I saw a pattern. He showed up often, always demanding something, always angry when he left. And when Mrs. Merritt started standing up for herself, he showed up with the attitude of a man who thought no was a foreign language. Snickers rose in the courtroom. Even the judge appeared to suppress a faint smile. And during the incident last week, Gavin asked, what did you observe? I saw him pounding on her door, shouting, threatening to break a window. The police handled it. But let me be clear. I have seen men like him all my life. He was not concerned. He was cornered. Thank you, Mrs. Coleman. Iris stepped down with regal indignation, as if leaving a stage where truth had taken its bow. Finally, Landon took the stand. Rowe guided him gently. Tell us, Mr. Merritt, what were your intentions with your mother's finances? He straightened. His voice attempted warmth. I wanted to help her. She is older, forgetful, vulnerable. I felt no anger. Just a vast, quiet recognition of how deeply he believed his own narrative, and the attempted life insurance policy Rowe prompted. A misunderstanding, Landon said quickly. I thought it was a routine form to manage her estate. Judge Peterson frowned. Routine forms do not ask for beneficiary signatures. Landon stammered. I must have misread, Gavin cut in. No further questions. His testimony speaks for itself. Landon glanced at me. His eyes were wide, almost pleading, but nothing in me broke. Not this time. Judge Peterson took 15 minutes in her chambers. 15 long, suspended minutes. When she returned, the room stilled. She adjusted her glasses, looked at me, then at Landon. Mr. Merritt, the evidence presented demonstrates a deliberate pattern of financial exploitation, identity misuse, and planned evasion. Your actions posed significant risk to your mother's financial security and personal well-being. She paused. The room held its breath. The court grants the petition for a permanent financial protection order. All accounts using Mrs. Merritt's identity will remain frozen from your access. You are prohibited from managing, altering, or inquiring into any part of her financial life. Landon slumped back, but the judge continued. Furthermore, the court approves the identity misuse injunction. Mrs. Merritt is authorized to pursue criminal charges if she chooses. Rowe stiffened. And finally, Judge Peterson said, given the documented escalation, a full restraining order is granted for a period of 5 years. Savannah covered her mouth eyes shining. I closed mine briefly, letting the weight of the ruling settle like a warm, grounding blanket. Justice did not roar. It arrived quietly, precisely, decisively. People filed out quietly. Some nodded at me. Others avoided eye contact. But Gavin stayed close. "You stood your ground," he said. "This is a rare outcome. You earned every inch of it." I looked toward Savannah. She approached slowly, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Clara," she whispered, "thank you for letting me testify." I touched her shoulder. "Thank you for choosing truth." She exhaled shakily. "I am leaving him." I nodded. "That is your path to choose, and I believe you will find strength in it." Iris appeared next, arms crossed. "Well, she said that went better than most episodes of Law and Order." I laughed softly. "Thank you for being there. Always," she said. "Now let us go home." I made lemon bars. 2 months later, the maple tree outside my window was full again. Bright green leaves rustled gently in the early breeze. My home was furnished again, not extravagantly, just enough to feel lived in. Every piece chosen carefully, not because I needed it, but because it felt right. The binder sat on a shelf, closed, no longer a wound, now a record of survival. I poured tea and stepped onto my porch. Iris watered her flowers across the street, waving her hose dramatically. Savannah sent updates from her new apartment, learning to rebuild at her own pace. Gavin emailed, occasionally checking in with quiet professionalism. As for Landon, the restraining order ensured silence, a silence that felt like healing rather than absence. I looked out at the quiet street, at the maple leaves fluttering like soft applause. I was alone, but not lonely, safe, but not hidden, stronger, and still growing. The storm had passed, and for the first time in many years, the air around me felt like possibility. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this story. If Clara's journey spoke to you, reminded you of someone you know, or touched a quiet place in your heart, I'd love to hear from you. Your voice matters here. Take a moment and share your thoughts in the comments. Were you surprised by the verdict? Have you ever witnessed this kind of quiet strength in real life? I'll be reading every word. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can tap the super thanks button. Every bit of kindness helps me create more true-to-life stories for our community. Check the pinned comment below for today's question and a few behind-the-scenes notes about how this story was built. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe, and tell us which city you're watching from. It helps this channel reach more people who might need these stories of healing and justice. Thank you for spending your time with me. Take care of yourself. See you in the next story.